two, three, four, two, two, three, four, three, two, three, four, four.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for tuning in to this broadcast on this lovely evening. My name is Adi from Sabah, Malaysia. I will be your host for tonight. I hope that everyone is doing fine and always keep everything clean. The Jesselton Philharmonic Orchestra hope that everyone is in good health and high spirit until the end of this long lockdown. For Zoom attendee, please help us to answer a series of questions when the polling pop up. For more info, please go to our JPO Facebook, Instagram, Twitter page, and don't forget to press like and follow button. If there is any question that you would like to ask to our guest tonight, please write it down on the Q&A below, or for YouTube live viewer, type it out at the comment section. Jesselton Philharmonic Orchestra are very honored to be able to invite Lo Wen Hong or Lens as our special guest for tonight with today's topic, audition and making music on brass instruments. Lo Wen Hong Lens is currently a member of the Oulu Symphony Orchestra in Finland as a bass trombonist, also as a sub on tenor trombone. He is also an active music arranger. Lance came from the quiet village of Serdang, Kuala Lumpur. He then went on to complete his bachelor degree of music in Taiwan Suzhou University, and his master was completed in the University of Music and Performing Arts Munich in Germany. Lance has had the opportunity to learn from Eric Lee from Malaysia National Symphony Orchestra, Kwang Ching Sung from Taiwan National Symphony Orchestra, Meng Sin Sai from Taiwan Evergreen Symphony, Uwe Voy and Frank Noy, Professor Olaf Kramfer, Professor Wolfram Arden, and Uwe Fassel. Lance has selected to the Taiwan NSO Academy of 2013 to 2015, Asian Youth Orchestra 2016 as trombonist and euphonium, active participant of Christian Lindbergh Trombone Masterclass in Schleswig-Holstein Music Festival 2017 in Germany, and the Summer Music Academy of Schloss Hadisburg 2018 in Germany as a bass trombonist. Lance has actively performed as a soloist, joint collaboration, and chamber recital. As a founder and arranger of the KL Brass Project, Lance wishes to promote brass playing in Malaysia by presenting brass ensemble recitals and videos. Lance enjoy audio and video producing, cooking, composing, arranging, and discovering nature around his place. Now, without further ado, let us invite Lance for the interview. Hello, Lance. Are you there?
Hi.
Hi. How
Hi.
are you, Lance?
Yeah, doing fine. Now it's very sunny in Finland of
I
4
see.
p.m. in the afternoon.
It's 4 p.m., so it's night
Yes.
time for us in Malaysia.
Yes, good evening to Malaysia.
All right, Lance. So I'm gonna ask you a series of questions for tonight, yeah? If that's
Yep.
okay with you. All right.
Yes.
So let's move on with the first one. So Lance, you joined a lot of symphony orchestras. What is the audition process like?
Well, I probably will start with when I audition schools and the youth orchestras. So basically we apply for schools, we apply for youth orchestras, and there's a lot of details in it that they might need your CV, for example, they might need your motivation letter, for example. I make sure at least these documents are pretty neatly presented to the committees, so I can at least have a higher chance to get invited to the audition at the first place. Of course, if we are applying for music schools, for example, after the high school, you want to apply for universities, then there's of course a certain grade that you have to achieve. How you score in your exams and tests from your high school. Yeah, so those are. Though I wouldn't go into too details, but those are kind of like what we have to prepare nicely, other than playing well. So after this documentary preparation, I will go on to like really have my playing keep improving, and I will try to have my schedule more organized. So it's not like I just have every day casually. I will really like set my time every day. I have from 9 to 11. I have to practice this 2 hour, and then to lunch, and then that goes on. I try to make my my routine even more even every day, so I can keep my stamina and my situation into playing at my best possible of the day. Even if I am having a bad day, I couldn't still go any worse because I have been practicing how I can be my best even I'm in a bad situation, for example. Yeah, and then talking about to audition for more professional orchestra auditions, or even if we are auditioning for orchestra academies, those are more into a very serious preparations that I have to be even more disciplined than before. Of course, we shouldn't be less disciplined if we preparing for youth orchestra or music school audition. But I've been taking so much more serious because that is a job, and they clearly, the juries, they look at things quite differently. I would say they looking for probably the highest standards possible. So I want to really make sure I can hit my best condition at least during the audition period.
See.
So yeah, this is it.
So the competition is really high over there.
It is even for us such minor instruments, but because our internet world is getting more and more broad, and it's getting much easier to access to great players playing the great recordings you can find from the world class trombonists, euphonium players, or even the world class orchestras. You do sometimes you might not even need to pay a cent to access to YouTube to have access to such high quality musics. So, or even materials that we can learn from. So even for minor instruments, the competition have been getting higher, I must say, because the young people who get into a better level is just going to be getting more and more, but the position exists on world doesn't really grow that fast, I would say. So to make sure always being standing on top of the triangle and try to stand up, I think that is quite competitive in this sense.
Right. So talking about audition process, is there any differences between youth orchestra, music schools, and professional orchestra?
I will say when I'm standing there, the level of the nervousness is different. Otherwise, I look at the process, the preparing process, and the application. I quite look it as the same. But just when I'm playing for them, because if you are, from my experience, not really for the whole world, but from my experience when I audition for youth orchestras, most of them they only have the conductor himself, or even just only the principal or the tutor of that youth orchestra, for example, to sit there. So it means less people. And if I'm auditioning for music schools, usually in German, if in this case in Germany, usually the whole panel, at least for the brass, they will be there. So it's like a whole row of brass professors being there, with some questions asking you with possibly, for example, in my case, they might ask you if you speak German, if you can make this kind of changes. They would need to see how reactive I can be, so they can know, they can kind of like imagine how will it be if they really take me into their studio, like if I can react to their teachings or not. And then
See.
after that is about professional orchestra auditions, or even some academy orchestras. Orchestra academies is more or less like a youth orchestra audition for me. The different thing I experienced in Germany is most of them, when it comes to orchestra academy auditions, usually they only offer to one position, but the applicants can be from 6 people to, at most I have been experienced 52
Wow. Only
for
for one
one.
position.
Yes, but this is a lot for trombone, but this is considered normal for violin auditions. I will say they can even goes up to more than 100 For example, this is how auditions is going on at the moment. Yeah, and especially for the professional orchestra auditions, you might have the chance to be playing not only to the conductor, not only to the trombone section, but the whole orchestra. So it can be like the first round, second round, because they want to practice the fairness. So maybe the first few rounds we are playing behind the screen, so the juries can judge without seeing you yourself.
I see.
And then or even they just open the screen from the very beginning, and then when you go into the hall, you will see like the whole orchestra is sitting in front of you and you're playing with them, playing for them, something like this. So the nervousness is there, but after so many years of recital performances, I've been trying to also, I don't fight for the nervousness. I kind of like live with it. I try to let this nervousness try to bring my musicality out. I try to be with it, for example, just not to press it against it, just to let it live as he's there. It's normal to be nervous, I would say.
All
Yeah.
right. Okay. So, how can an audition preparation be like? Do the teachers teach differently before audition for students?
I I I noticed the differences of the teachers when they know I'm going to take an audition or not. If I'm not taking any auditions in a short term, then we can be working on some basics and some more casual to really take down the pace to really build out what we should have to into our playing. For example, air, long tones, like how our mouth should be working, how our tongue should be working, etudes, this kind of like polishing stuffs. But when it comes to nearer to the audition, we kind of like tackle more on the orchestra excerpts and the solos we are going to play in the auditions, and try to make it as detailedly polished as possible. But on top of that, is musicality easier to give an impact to the juries that we are not just a trombone player, we are a musician from our heart. So this is another small tip that comes from most of the professionals nowadays. They want to listen to how well we are as a musician, not how well we can blow as a trombonist. I think this is a difference I can think of for the moment.
I see. Okay. So, playing the trombone, what is it like to play a minority instrument?
Yeah, we actually the way we practice, it's, I wouldn't say it's very much different from the melodic instruments like trumpet, flute, violin. We still need to practice our long tones, our producing of the note, and practice melodic stuff and technical stuff, even some advanced technically difficulty stuffs. We as a trombone player, we still need to practice those kind of stuff, of course. But when we are sitting in a band, in an orchestra, usually we do get to play the melody all the time. Most of the time, we even end up we have to sit in the orchestra, counting bars, not doing kind of like doing nothing. But when we come in, usually is, if we are lucky, our part is quite important. No matter it's loud or soft dynamics, it kind of like means something to the orchestra work, for example. But in an orchestra, no, sorry, in a band, the trombones have more role about playing accompany stuff. Like in the march, you will typically see us playing the offbeats and or the rhythm to accompany the band, or long tones to let the harmony stays there, for example. So that was how more usually a trombone works like. But for euphonium, as a trombonist as a formerly a trombonist in a band, I kind of like quite envy what euphonium can do in a band, because we share the same mouthpiece, we have the same range,
All right.
but they have all the melodies, they have all the challenging stuff, they have all the beautiful stuff going on their instrument, and just by sitting behind the euphonium, I kind of like had a lot of dream to really play a euphonium. That's why when I reached Taiwan, I on the first year when I know that our school has a band, and my school has a euphonium in the storeroom that is free for trombonist majors to play. I just asked the conductor, can I play euphonium? So that's
Directly.
where I start euphonium as well. Yeah.
All right. It's nice. Okay, can we talk about the video we've seen at the beginning of this webinar? I can see that people around the globe is playing a Malaysian song. How did you gather all of them?
Talking about the just now, you have been asking me about what's the feeling of playing minority instruments. So for example, just now the video. So this is a group called KL Brass. Me and my friend Yenje, we found out together. That was back to 2 years ago. Before Christmas, I was still in Germany, and I'm planning to go back to Malaysia during the Chinese New Year. And then I realized that we have some more and more active chamber groups that are producing really high quality music, but these kind of groups, the way they form their ensemble, which is understandable, they don't really need trombone much. At least so far, they don't really need one yet. And I've been kind of like waiting for the chance, and then it comes to the point that I say, okay, maybe this is a time to do it, to have our own brass ensemble. So I asked Yenje, is it? I call him from Germany. So I said, hey man, is it time to start something like this already, like a full brass ensemble? Of course, this is also inspired by a German group called German Brass, which my bass Roman teacher plays in. So the group of KL Brass came in, and we didn't, a little bit different from other brass groups. We don't really set like this is a brass quintet or brass quartet. We just put brass project, because we might not be able to gather so many brass players from the beginning. And then even after we can have a big size of concert, then maybe we won't have that many people joining all the time, because I understand most of us we are working or even living now in different part of the world at the moment. So we also want to kind of like being flexible to be able to perform brass trio, brass quartet, brass quintet, and eventually maybe there's a chance, maybe 10 piece brass. So actually now I'm supposed to be in Malaysia recording with my KL brass friends, which happened, all flights are cancelled. This video I have been wanting to do, because we have the Chinese New Year, the Valentine's video with brass instrument as well. So I wanted to do more like for Hari Kebangsaan, for this case, Hari Raya. So I managed to get it, because if we are doing virtually, I don't need to worry about how to get rehearsal together. They just need to record in room, that's all. So I do everything myself, from arranging, producing a click track, and then I send it out, and then so that's how we do the first. Actually, it's our second virtual video as a KL Brass project ensemble. And to also with the color of the brass ensemble, we also wish to like getting more and more colors of Malaysia, because we don't often see brass ensembles playing our local stuff. So that's what I also try to put into our repertoire as well. And it's nice music.
Interesting. All right.
Yeah.
So after strings and wind instrument being more favorable choices for kids and youngsters nowadays, What can a group of brass instrument do, if I may ask?
Okay, so like just now, I just mentioned about the KL brass. Actually, we have because nowadays we can get access to so many great materials online, like how to play fast, how to play crazy stuff on our instruments. So the level of our player is obviously getting higher and higher without them actually knowing the youngsters, because they grew up with having such rich materials online. So actually it's possible to play some more challenging stuff like the string quartets can do, like the wind quintets can do. So for example, what we just did for the Selamat Hari Raya virtual video, I kind of like I didn't really try to arrange it as easier as possible, because I know at least my friends, they can do it even if I write something more advanced. And then even for myself, I try to have a challenge for myself as well. If you can see the second part of the video, that's me playing four parts quartet. It's a theme from the animated movie called House Moving Castle. I arranged it for myself and I record it, so I know how maximum I can go at that moment. So I try to achieve that, and then hopefully for the next project, next recording, I can get even further and even further. For example, yeah, so it's actually possible. Of course, it's very difficult for our instrument, but it's not impossible to play some stuff like that. Of course, if you after this kind of like challenging stuff, when we go back to the basics, naturally brass instruments, as a group of brass, we can be very often seen in churches, playing church service, playing church music, or even some fanfares, signals, to more like playing loud and bright, majestic voice together to like really announce, for example, the arrival of a queen or king, or a grand announcement of a great event, for example. Yeah, like this.
I see. All right. So this is for the audience. If there is any question that you would like to ask to our guest tonight, please write it down at the Q&A below, or for YouTube live viewer, type it out at the comment section. All right, Lance. Lance, JPO is an organization with limited funding and doing activities like the Outreach program. What advice would you give to us beside organizing concerts, workshop, and music camp? What are your view on our program like this?
Well, first of all, I appreciate a lot of what you guys have been doing. Not only, of course, not only JPO, but also whatever organizations have been doing providing such materials for our community. So thank you all of you. I have really not so much to say. I just want to say well done. Thank you for doing this to the community. I really appreciate it. If you really want me to say something, then just keep going on. All the best to you, and yeah, all the best to you, and let's make good music together. And let us bring music, peace to the community.
Right. Okay, now let us move on to the Q&A section. Okay. We have a question from Zoom attendee by Sean Ng. I hope I may pursue my dream to continue my music hobby to an actual profession, but Malaysia being a country less exposed to the music world, do you have any recommendation for further musical education?
So I will say try to, well, if staying Malaysia is your limited option, then try to expose yourself into the highest possible level as possible, which means work hard, which means getting more input from great musicians, from not only from the instruments you play, but also from instruments that you don't play. For example, for as a trombonist, I've kind of like trying to get rid of trombone music, but I try to listen more and more string music like violin sonata, cello sonata, really symphony orchestra performances, something like that. So for our own input, this is what I can do, and then work hard, work very well with your teacher, and have a chance to get into the world, the professional world as early as possible. So by talking about professional world, I don't mean just getting into a professional orchestra. It has a very broad meaning, I would say. Getting gigs when you are a student is already a good sign that people actually want you to be in the professional scene. So I would say just keep working hard and try to impress your teacher that so the teachers is actually feeling safe to have you in this circle, and the other professionals on the freelance gigs, they are actually impressed by how well you play, and they will be make them looking forward to work with you again, I would say. Yeah.
Right. So, do you have any recommendation for the further musical education?
I don't really know much about Malaysia, the institutions in Malaysia, unfortunately, because I've been living to Taiwan for university, like, and then I've been very little. I have spent very little time in Malaysia since then, to be honest. If you are in Malaysia, then what I can go for is, you can try UPM, you can try Sunway University, you can try Aswara, for example. But if you have the luck to go on to overseas, um, actually since long time ago, the Yong Siu To Conservatory of Music in Singapore has been the first choice of most Malaysians since long time ago, because they, at least that time, they provide full scholarships. They even give you kind of like pocket money every month. So whoever went there, they basically can live without their family actually paying. Of course, because of such benefits, the competition to get into the YST Conservatory in Singapore has been getting much higher and higher and higher by years. So if you really want to get there, really work hard and even consider taking lessons from the professors in the campus, so they get to know you, you get to know them, and they know how you progress, and they know you personally, so perhaps can make them easier to decide to take you or not. So this is somewhere nearer to your home for Malaysia. But also, I know someone, they went to Thailand. For example, me, I furthered my study in Taiwan for bachelor's. I know someone even started their bachelor's already straight in the United States, in the UK. There's a lot of variations. So it depends on what kind of genre you wish to further studies. If you like the way the British people plays, or you like the way the people learn in the US, this can be all kind of like various options that you can consider before you really decide where to go. Yeah.
Okay.
Hope I
Thank you,
answered the
Shan-Eng, for
question.
the yes, I think so. Thank you, Shan-Eng, for the question. Now, another question from Hui Ping Lao. What is your dream/goal? Do you find your identity? Such a deep
Again,
question.
the beginning of the question.
What is your dream or goal?
My dream was why I started on trumpet. So since when I was 11, because it's that time my family brought us to a cinema and we watched Star Wars, and of course everybody knows the music from Star Wars, even they don't watch. So I was really impressed by the soundtrack from a Star Wars, and the trumpet really shines out, the trumpet sound. Then since then, I really want to be the player in the orchestra, and that's how I started. playing trumpet. So playing in an orchestra, playing in a professional ensemble, making good music has been my dream since then. And of course, my goal is I'm lucky to say I have been achieving my goal, most of my goal now. I'm having a professional playing job at the moment here in Finland. And the other part of my goal and my dream is I wish to have been to try to contribute more to the Malaysian music scene, specifically the brass scene. That's why we formed this KL Brasso to promote that, to promote our own brass musician, and at the same time to promote that we brass players, we can play something else than long tones and accompaniments. And also to really raise the overall playing levels of the brass players in Malaysia, and also raising the awareness and the people's acceptance to brass music. So they don't think that only the strings can make music, only the flutes can make music. We are just making our neighbors complain all the time. We can do more than that. Yeah.
So coming from a quiet village from Serdang, I'm sure when you get back here, Serdang won't be quiet anymore.
Yeah.
Okay. Another question from Sean Eng. He said, I actually don't have a teacher, and I actually have been searching for an online tutor, but that's not really working out. So may I maybe ask option for trombone tutor?
Again, so he is asking who to approach as a trombone tutor.
Uh, I'm pretty sure that he's looking for a trombone tutor. If there is any online tutor that you may know.
Of course, I'm available online, and I believe most of my friends are available to teach online lessons at the moment, especially since the pandemic. So I would say yes, the pandemic has been unfortunate, but it's also another fortunate thing for students or kids that wish to proceed to a teacher in the main cities, and where they have not have a chance. For example, me, I have been wanting to have lessons with some maestros, but I haven't had the chance to travel to, for example, Spain. I recently I have the chance to have a lesson with a bass trombone teacher from England, which he works in Spain. So this kind of online, I believe he don't usually do online lessons much, but he has been doing more and more since the pandemic, of course. So yeah, ask your ask your band tutors, ask any possible music teachers you know around yourself, even if they don't play your instruments. Ask them if they know any professionals, any teachers which is playing your instrument and think that can teach you. That's how we can find out if we really have not so much lobangs to know where the teachers I can find. Yeah. And also, of course, another big factor is based on where you live. Yeah, because the time zones it can be tricky for some as well, not for me, for example. Yeah, so do your homework, do your preparation, do your survey enough before you actually log into the lesson, for example. And take note, some online tutors who has been doing online lessons for long, some of them they offer free trials for 15 to 30 minutes free lessons. This is worth checking out if they provide something like that, if you are not sure you want to stick with it for good or not. Yeah.
All right,
Hope it
thank you.
helps.
Okay, so a question from Jasmine Sue. How else can we contribute to make the community in Malaysia, more specifically East Malaysia, more aware of and involved in music making?
By this way, the phrase I can think of is we need to get into the community. Of course, as a performer, we always talk about doing something nice, something attractive to make the people get into our concert hall, get into our performing venues. But before that, I think we need to make them willing to come into our concert hall first of all. So before that, I would think it might be a very good idea for us to go to walk into the community first. So for example, of course, I understand it might be a challenge to do such mock some sudden performances like a bunch of people just suddenly appears on the street from nowhere to perform a piece, something like that. But it's actually a good way to, for example, around the streets, if you can tahan the heat around the shopping malls, to just play music for them, play live music for them, let them know actually there are such music performances, such music organizations exist in your place. And of course, we as a Western or classical musical instruments, we always kind of like have been practicing classical stuff, classical music, Mozart sonata, Beethoven symphony, something like that. But also at the same time, we need to like really try to produce our own music. For example, we did the Selamat Hari Raya, which is another very big step for us, and for me as well as an arranger. We need to play some tunes that the local people is aware of. They can recognize of, like Chinese songs, Malay songs, or even some very local tunes that your maybe only your place people can understand, can really recognize. So to really go into the community to make them know there's such music exists, then when the more interest they pay, then the more they will have the will to come into our concert hall to sit there for 2 hours to listen to our performance, for example. Yeah.
Okay. Now, a question from YouTube viewer. What are the differences in brass playing in between Malaysia, Taiwan, Germany, and Finland? And do they have different expectation as far as audition is concerned?
Of course, there are some differences, but I wouldn't say for brass playing. First of all, it's more of the local, how the local people practice their mentality, I will say. So when I was in Taiwan, I feel that most of my friends, at least the friends who I know well, they don't really have the hesitation of doing something. For example, in Malaysia, I've been when I ask some people, sometimes, of course, luckily nowadays, there isn't so much of such a mentality anymore. But back to those days, we did have hesitation to actually achieving something. For example, having a recital for a brass group, which they think this is very, very minority, very not normal for the people. Will we able to reach the community? Will we gain any things from there? So when I was in Taiwan, I feel like more like if they want to do, we just try to work it out and make it happen. So I have the luck and luxurious to have been working with a lot of Taiwan friends for joint recitals, chamber recitals, and even we make up our own wind bands to perform some repertoires, some advanced repertoires that the school bands don't usually have be able to pick up. Yeah, so I've been doing quite a lot of this kind and to keep my life busy as a musician, especially as a euphonium player in Taiwan. I'm very grateful for that. And then talking about Germany and Finland, I have a feeling because such hype, they have such a high level of playing, making them they are even for young kids here in Europe, the high quality of the, for example, the high quality of the tone color, the technique has been just normal for them. They will say, okay, wow, the certain maestro can play like this, but they won't be like for example, for some of the people I know back in Malaysia, they kind of like think that, oh, it's so good that it's impossible for me to achieve. Of course, it's impossible. It's not impossible. Otherwise, I wouldn't be here. Yeah, so I would, yeah, though, of course, I'm not being over proud, but I'm also kind of like trying to really, really encourage our people to that actually we are possible. I know some really good Malaysian player just happens to be they wasn't really well known on the internet just because they have been busy practicing overseas, obviously. Yeah, so it's actually possible, and just think out of the box a little bit, and then we can be actually as natural playing as the European friends I know. Because if you really want me to say a difference between Malaysian brass playing and the European brass playings, most of the European musicians I've been working with, when they play something good, they just play it. They do it without actual working hard on it, because they have been building up their fundamentals until so strong they can produce such high level of playing in a very little effort. It's just coming out, something like that.
Okay. A question from a Zoom attendee, from Ricardo Pineda. I'm sure you know him, I think.
Yeah.
So he say, "Hi, Lance.
Hi.
What extra musical things you think need a musician to reach a success career? Greetings from Colombia."
Hi. So sorry again. So he's kind of what is his question again? How to
What
achieve?
extra musical things you think need a musician to reach a success career? So what does a musician needs?
I will say the sense of musicality, of course, sense of phrasing from the basics, the easy phrasing of every single thing. Even when I practicing my long tones, even when I'm doing my basics routine every day, which can be just major scales, minor scales. It can sound very boring if we do it every day, but I try to make every single second of them as a music. As I'm playing in a symphony, as I'm playing in a musical piece with the same thing. The mentality will occasionally different, first of all. And how to have this kind of sense. For me, I must admit I'm not talented musicality, so I need to practice this as well. And one of the practice method is I try to have this musical input most of the time, a lot, from, let's say, good orchestra recordings by great orchestras, great conductors, great solo works, or chamber music. I like to listen to chamber music, especially because that is not as a soloist that perform only ourselves, and there's not like an orchestra that is too many people to produce such tight connection in a group. I like to look at chamber music because it's not so many people involved. That's why they can maintain a very tight connection between each other when they are playing the music. So how they connect with each musicians, I really like the sparkles happening between the humans, between the musicians, and sometimes even between the performers and the audience. So this is how I input from listening. Other than that, I also try to really experience life, I would say. In for example, in Europe, it's very easy to get out of the house, to really step into the woods, step into the green, step beside the lake or the sea, to really get the feeling of you are in the nature, because Mother Nature cannot give us enough. We always get more from them. And not only for musicians, I will say, even for artists, being in the nature, and also visit the art museums, look at how the artists craft their artwork, look at Van Gogh's painting, look at famous painting, I would say. Even calligraphies, they are all arts. They can inspire us in any kind of ways to, but they for sure they will help on our artistic level as a musician, I believe. Yep.
Okay. Now a question from YouTube. Highlands, what is the greatest challenge for you in learning to play the trombone?
For me, because as for people who know me, I'm not a tall guy. In fact I'm quite a small guy. So as a trombone player, I have difficulties reaching the furthest slide position. This is one of my difficulties, and also my lung capacity isn't as much as the big guys that we can see from the west. Yeah, because to play the trombone, we need to use a lot of air. Of course, this kind of kind of like basic problems which can be solved, of course, by practice. And the further difficulties to play in trombone in the orchestra, let's say, is when we have to play loud or we get some arrangements that we have to play all the time. I will kind of like have the problem of my stamina, because in the orchestra we typically we don't get used to play on our instrument like all the time like the violinist does. So when the arrangements come in, like we have to play from bar 1 to bar 99, then I have obviously it's easier for brass players to have stamina problems, which we need to train our stamina in this case. And if we don't have so many notes to play, for example, in typical classical symphonies from Brahms, from Schumann, then we need to be sitting on the stage, pretending to be concentrating, because we have nothing to play there. And then when we come in, we have to make sure, even after 1 hour of not playing, when our mouth is already cold on stage, we have to make sure after 1 hour of sitting on stage, the first tone we produce is going to be as great as we just warm up, and it's great. So this is another difficult, challenging point for orchestral trombonists, for example. We have to be really always there. We don't, yeah, and try to be concentrate even during the pauses, when the trombonist is not playing, but the orchestra is playing. So try to get into the music. That's how I survive the touchet moments.
It's like 200% preparation.
Yeah, kind of.
Okay, I think this one is gonna be the last question for tonight. So, what
Okay.
are the main differences in playing the trombone and the euphonium, besides the difference in slides and piston and having the same tone color?
Of course, you just mentioned about the difference is between the fingering and the slide and the tone color. And the further differences I find is the way they play it, because I like to think because first of all, the way the instrument works is already different. The euphonium bell is facing up. The trombone bell is facing forward like the trumpet. So if I have to switch in between so often, I kind of like think more forward playing when I'm playing trombone, and I kind of thinking to play even more rounder and even upwards if I'm playing euphonium. Because if I have to explain it to in a band, the role in a band, for as a trombonist, we kind of like sometimes need to point out our sound, the trombone sound, to the end of the concert hall, for example. Because and since we are sitting with the trumpets, we need to deliver our sound very forward. But for euphoniums and French horn players, in a band, we need to create, let's say a band is a picture, and the trumpet trombones, they are kind of like delivering the direct sides to you, and the woodwinds, sometimes they have direct sides, they have a lot of decorations, and the tuba, the low voices being the a very stable frame so that the bands can really sit on it comfortably. And on top, so after everything so forward to you, and then horn and euphoniums kind of like being behind like a rainbow. Sometimes you can see it, sometimes you can't, but you feel it. You feel like there's a very tiny thing that you might not see, but you actually feel the beauty on top of that. So that's what I've been thinking when I switching in between to think of the color is differently. Of course, the mouthpiece we use is very similar, first of all, but I try to avoid thinking the same way. Even I even try to avoid playing the same thing because these are two different character people. It's like it's very easy practice. I will say, like as a human, we sometimes naughty. We try to imitate a certain people, the way of a certain people speaks. That is how we practice the change of characters, right? So when I switch between trombones and euphonium, even when some nowadays I have the chance to play like tenor and bass and sometimes alto, I will tell myself and remind myself each of them has their own characteristic. They have their own voice. They have their own specific tone colors. I just have to be a different person when I play different instruments. Yeah, but after all these kind of like differences, at the end, what the juries, what the audience want to listen is a good quality of music. So make good use of your practice, make good use of the practice section, and I'm sure your instrument will help you in a certain way. Yeah.
Okay, we do have one last question from Yan Che. Yeah.
Yes.
Can you tell us about the change of your routine from before college, during college, audition, and being an orchestra player?
Before college, before college, I don't really have a long history of having instrumental lessons. So I just play whatever long tones like scales, and then just roughly play everything I know from a book and from my mind. And that's how I learn major scales as well. I didn't. Funny enough, I did not learn the scales from any book. I just know the theory of da 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 da. I know the semitones between the 3, 4, and 7, 8, and then I figure out the rest of my by myself. And then when I got into university, of course I have a more stable schedule with my main teacher at least once every week. So I have more systematic plans for my daily routines, like long breathing, long tones, and then simple stuff, routines, and then go into the pieces I have been needing to perform for solo, for orchestra, for example. And then since my university life, my routine hasn't changed that much. Of course, it changes in terms of complexity and the range I've been covering, because by practicing daily, there's more and more things I can do, like more and more advanced stuff I can going to be achieved. So I've been trying to really max out my limitations. So like for example, last year I might have difficulties playing a certain high notes, and now I feel easier and try to develop. So since university, my form of routine hasn't been changing much, except it's getting more complex and also having more expectation from myself. Yeah.
All right, everyone, we have come to the end of tonight's broadcast. For
Thank you
more
for
info,
tuning
please
in.
go to our JPO Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and press the like and follow button. If you want to rewatch and listen to this broadcast again, it will be available after this broadcast ended. The recorded live broadcast will be available for you to watch at our YouTube page. You guys have been great. Thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you guys enjoyed the broadcast. And that's it for tonight. Be safe, stay safe, and be healthy, and do stay at home. I will lead the prayer for tonight's program. Please pray in whatever faith you believe in for the COVID-19. So, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Allahumma inni a'udzubika minal barsi wal junoni wal juzami wa min sayyil askam. Oh God, I seek your refuge from leprosy, insanity, mutilation, and from all serious illness. In the name of God, with whose name nothing on the earth or in the heaven can cause harm, and He is the all-hearing, the all-knowing. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار وصلى على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم والحمد لله رب العالمين. Okay, and again, the JPO would like to thank Lance for being with us tonight. Thank you again, Lance, for being with us.
Thank you for inviting. Stay safe, everyone, and happy practice.
You
Enjoy
too.
life.
Enjoy
Thank you.
life. Okay, good night and see you next time. Goodbye.
See you. Bye.